How's it going? Good. How are you doing? All right. Good. Great.
Hey, it's great to see you.
Indeed. Good to be seen.
Looks like you're going to hit a golf ball.
Done. Got a little wet today, though. I haven't seen him before.
There's good. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I shared it to my story. It's not popping up. Oh, should I share it to my
Right here, I know these people. Sit down. No. I think they're at my house for lunch.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Melissa's my husband.
Bill?
Melissa.
I'm Melissa. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Jenny. I'm Bill. I see you on Zoom every once in a while. Oh, Betty. Hi. Betty. That's Betty. Betty, I don't think you've ever met her. Betty. I had to come to something this week. I drank Billy. We go to the county board. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Last night. Oh, all right. Well, he's emailed me. And Jody Spencer has emailed me. That's all really great with all the people from the book.
If people could please be seated, we'll get started in just a minute.
It's neat, all the police officers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Corey Mason, and it is my privilege to welcome all of you tonight to Festival Hall. I am truly heartened to see so many attendees tonight to discuss what we are doing collectively to address one of the community's most pressing problems, the rise in gun violence. It is my honor to be joined on the stage with County Executive Jonathan Delagrave and RUSD Superintendent Dr. Gallion. You will also hear from the Chief of Police, the District Attorney, and the Sheriff. I also want to acknowledge the members of the boards that are here today, the school board, the county board, and the city council. Thank you. I do believe having this many intergovernmental folks in one place is unprecedented. While the rise in gun violence we are seeing is something we're seeing across the country, the Racine community rise in gun violence requires a local response. As you may recall, on May 26th, the city and county announced our Violent Crime Reduction Initiative at the Bryant Center. It is the first time the city, county, RUSD, and critically important nonprofits all have come together to work collaboratively to share information, resources, and intelligence. Our mission is straightforward: address gun crime around homicides, shootings, and shots fired in the city of Racine. As you will hear shortly from law enforcement, this collaboration has allowed us to increase arrests, seize guns, and execute more warrants. It also comes at a time when we have seen more gun violence in this community. I want to begin by thanking the county executive in particular for extending resources to help us address this problem. I know there is much more work for us to do ahead, but we are much further along on that road because of the assistance of the county. Together, we are taking people who commit gun crimes off the street. We are prioritizing the most serious crimes, and with the DA's help, achieving more prosecutions of violent criminals. And we are doing the hard work of improving relationships between local units of government, nonprofits, and the neighborhoods we serve to better address the violence at hand. While there is a lot of work ahead, we are a lot further along because of this city, county, and community-wide collaboration. So it is my privilege to introduce the County Executive, Jonathan Delagrave.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of our presentation, I also would like to thank the Mayor and our Superintendent, Dr. Gallion, for being on stage with me and for their leadership as well. I also want to thank all of our elected officials for taking the time out today to be with us, the County Board, the Common Council, the Board of Education, and our local municipalities for your participation as well as your support. Finally, and most importantly, thank you to our community. Thank you for taking an interest. Thank you for taking your time to be here. No single person or entity can do this alone. It's going to take all of us to lift each other up, not bring each other down, working together to engage and share resources with those most impacted by gun violence. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Gallion.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Eric Gallion, Superintendent of Racine Unified School District. It is an honor for me to be here this evening. I would like to first and foremost thank our Mayor and County Exec and acknowledge this great partnership that we have with our law enforcement and our city and elected and county officials. We are here because we are angry and frustrated. Our community is much better than what we have been seeing most recently. Our youth deserve to feel safe, whether they're going to school, to an event, or just showing up in their own neighborhoods. They deserve to feel safe. It is time that we all work together. And so this collaboration gives us an opportunity to do that. And I'm excited to be a part of this presentation this afternoon so that you can really understand what we are doing as a collaborative. So I want to thank you for being here and just listen to what we're going to say today. Mayor.
So, as the Mayor said, what is actually today's mission? It's quite straightforward. The rise in gun crime, plain and simple, is unacceptable. Every resident, as I stated in May with the Mayor, every resident in Racine County and the city of Racine has an inherent right to safety no matter what zip code they live in. That is why we have initiated this collaborative, this Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. So you may be asking, what makes this actually different? Well, it's an unparalleled collaboration. It's using data to deploy pinpoint resources and law enforcement interventions. We have better information than we've ever had. The data is showing us, and I don't want to spoil what you're going to hear tonight, but what the data shows, like national trends, it's young adults ages 18 to 29 that are committing these offenses. This means we need stronger advocates for our youth. We are learning from our past successes and challenges, and we are here to build initiatives with the community, not for the community. Mayor?
So we're going to achieve this mission through a three-pronged approach. The first prong is law enforcement. Law enforcement uses data-driven methods such as precision patrolling to ensure a police presence in neighborhoods most vulnerable to gun crime. Historical data allows us to pinpoint high crime locations down to the intersection, times of day, and even days of the week when gun crimes are most likely to occur. Regional collaboration and intelligence sharing also help us investigate target violent offenders. The City of Police Department and Sheriff Office work closely across drug, gang, and crime-related task forces to quickly identify and respond to violent offenders. While law enforcement can immediately deter and respond to gun crime, ongoing community investments are critical to the safety of high-crime neighborhoods. Community engagement means more face-to-face conversations with residents impacted by gun violence. City of Racine COP houses continue to lead the way in improving community relations and empowering residents to report crime. So this past year, our COP houses launched free life skills training for parents and students in middle and high school to help reduce stress, resolve conflicts, and manage alcohol and substance abuse. This summer, the city was awarded roughly $250,000 to establish Safe and Sound, an innovative engagement initiative out of the city of Milwaukee. Safe and Sound staff will knock on doors in high-crime neighborhoods so residents can directly share their experiences, concerns, and needs around community safety. It'll also appoint a neighborhood and youth liaison to foster better relationships between communities and law enforcement. We look forward to sharing more on this exciting new initiative in the weeks and the months to come.
Finally, we all know that some of our communities are more vulnerable to gun violence. So it's going to require us to make ongoing investments in mentorship, work experience opportunities, criminal justice advocacy, while engaging our youth so that we can reduce the number of gun violence in our community. Racine Unified is proud to lead the way in engaging our most at-risk youth. Racine Unified Community Connectors initiative serves as a bridge in this work. They are located at each one of many of our campuses across the community, and they actively engage with students to anticipate and resolve issues before they happen. Community Connectors are also there to address gang-related issues and keeping those issues out of our schools and keeping our students safe. We look forward to sharing more about our community initiatives as this evening goes forward.
As I stated before, we are all in this together. Reducing gun violence only works when everyone has a complete and transparent understanding of community safety. That is why we are launching today the first of its kind Community Safety Report Card. And it's going to tell the whole story, good and bad, about what we're trying to do. Our report card provides detailed breakdown of gun-related arrests, arrest types, shots fired, tracking changes in gun crime between last year and this year. Our report card also highlights continued investment to better engage and serve all of you, our residents. Chief Robinson and Chief Schmeling will now walk through some of the data presented on this report card, and I'm honored to be with him on this stage as well. As we review this information, I want you to ask yourselves what we potentially are missing. We don't have all the answers. We also want to hear from you, the community. So with that, Chief and Sheriff.
Thank you. What you've heard a number of us say is we're taking a data-driven approach to addressing the gun violence that we've experienced this year and in previous years. And I'd like to give thanks to, and a great deal of thanks goes to Racine Police Department crime analyst Chelsea Barker for her data analysis that allows us to focus our resources in the right places. If I can have the next slide, please. So what we do is we take a look at all the data that comes into our reports, place them in the heat maps, and we provide that information at our command staff meetings and at our shift levels, so we know where we need to focus our events. And what you can see on the right-hand slide is a dramatic increase in shots fired over the last several years. As a matter of fact, the numbers between 2018 and 2022 have practically doubled. So using a data-driven approach, what we've done at the Racine Police Department is we implemented a program called RCAT, which is Racine Crime Analysis and Trends. And that allows us to take a look at where we should be patrolling, when we should be patrolling, by time of day, day of the week. So as you can see, the calls for shots fired was concentrated in certain parts of the north and certain parts of the south were consistent with what we knew was a back and forth gun violence between north and south side. We can't hide from that. That is simply the fact. Now, we're going to go to the next slide. I'm going to pause for just a second. Travis, would you please? What you see is a number that is important to all of us. So it shows nine homicides year to date, which is 9 lives lost, 9 sets of families that are impacted. Our first homicide victim was a veteran firefighter, Christopher Leyland. Our second homicide victim was a 14-year-old by the name of Eugene Henderson. These are not just numbers to us. These are real lives lost, real potential, real pain. So this is not just a set of numbers to us. This is meaningful. We've had 72 people that have been wounded by gunfire. Some of those were grazed, some of those are serious, grievous injuries. We had a 16-year-old that was shot multiple times while walking with his 6-year-old cousin. This cannot stand. The property damage is real. When people have their cars shot up, their homes are shot up, they're frightened in your own homes, and we have put the things in place to be able to address those crimes. Sheriff?
Thank you, Chief. Before I begin my comments, I want to say thank you for the collaborative effort that we have, Chief. County Executive, Mr. Mayor, our District Attorney, Dr. Gillian, and everyone here tonight, thank you. I really appreciate this. And I would be remiss tonight if we did not, as I look around this room, I see my fellow brothers and sisters in uniform here today that are responsible for the statistics that we're going to talk about tonight. Can we just give them a round of applause? And for you in uniform tonight, I know you don't hear it often enough, but thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I want to begin my comments this evening because I've heard from this community, and I've been asked often, what are we collectively doing about the crime in the city of Racine? The gun violence has got to stop. I've heard that. In fact, there are some individuals in this room tonight that I have spoken to personally. Why does my refrigerator have a bullet hole in it? Why has a round went through my window and now in the drywall at a desk and a seat where I used to sit? And thank God I wasn't sitting there at that moment. These are real questions that our community members have. And it's disturbing. We deserve better. And it's just unacceptable in my view. Although tonight we are not taking a victory lap, I can assure you we're not. And I'm not suggesting tonight that we have all the answers to all the problems. But I will tell you, we should feel proud of the work that we are doing. Tonight we're being transparent with the information that we have. We're trying to explain a process that is very challenging today. And at the end of the day, and I think you heard the county exec and the mayor suggest that there still is a lot of work that needs to be done. Fortunately, in spite of all the bad things that we continue to read about in the newspapers, the Racine Police Department, under Chief Robinson's leadership, as well as the Sheriff's Office, are working together, shoulder to shoulder, to try to aggressively address the violence within our community. As law enforcement stands at the ready to defend us, and this multifaceted approach that we're going to learn more about this evening. I also understand, like the opioid epidemic We cannot arrest our way out of this problem. We need others to come into this circle, and that is the reason why we have the people behind us here today. I'm going to speak briefly about the statistics you can see on the slide here today. 308 criminal arrests. Now, I should probably tell you, this is from January through September of this year. 308 criminal arrests. Breaking that down, 119 felonies and 189 misdemeanors. 196 criminal warrants were cleared. 196. Of which 131 of those were felonies. 65 of those are misdemeanors. So let's look at this holistically. 500 incidents where criminals did not have the ability to commit violent offenses. Why? Because they were in custody. I believe this is a beginning of a message that we are sending to these actors, these bad actors that are coming into our community, that if you're going to jeopardize public safety, we are going to target you and we are going to arrest you. Perhaps more importantly, on our statistical platform you can see here, 56 guns. 56, it's worth repeating, 56 guns during this operation were taken off the streets of your community, our community. Some of these individuals that were possessing these guns were convicted felons. They should not have had these guns. We're not taking guns out of law-abiding citizens' hands. But think about this for a moment. When we talk about the multiple incidents of violence that these individuals would have created with those weapons should have been stayed in their hands, and it creates fewer opportunities for them to commit acts of violence, and ultimately that reduces the number of fatality shootings. Please understand that many guns are taken out of the hands of felons, and I firmly believe that drugs, guns, and violence go hand in hand. We've seen it over and over again, not just here in our community, across the state, and across our country. I truly believe also, with that said, we need to continue to work collaboratively with other agencies in that effort, because we talk about drugs, we talk about guns, we talk about violence. Criminals do not know jurisdictional boundaries like the chief and I do. We have jurisdictions we have to operate within. The criminals don't have that oversight. They get to skip into Kenosha, Milwaukee, Chicago, wherever they may be, and they come into our community and they do their acts of violence. So that means now more than ever, we must, it's imperative that we work together. And I think today, as we're explaining to this community, this is a great and shining example of a collaborative effort to reduce gun violence here in our neighborhoods. I'm going to end with this statement. I believe that every person has a right in this community to feel safe in their own home. At work, church, school, play, or whatever it is you do, you have a right to be safe. It's imperative. And I can assure you that the chief and I are adamant and will always put your safety as our number one priority. Lastly, many of you have asked, how can I help? I would submit to you to get involved, to call us. When you see something, say something. So often I hear people say to us that, well, I seen this, I heard this, I'd seen something on social media, but I didn't want to bother you, Sheriff. I didn't want to bother you, Chief. Bother us. That is what we're here for. Tell us that information. We can digest it. Oftentimes, small fragments of information prove to be the most case-solving results. So please, please. Also, how you can help us is support the men and women that you see around us here today. Patrolling your streets, support law enforcement. Explain to them how important it is and how justifiable it is to protect our community. Our law enforcement professionals, these are brave men and women. I can tell you, I've been doing this job for 28 years, and I think the chief has got a few extra years on me, but I will tell you this, is that our mission hasn't changed. We put our lives on the line each and every day, all in the spirit of your safety. That's what we do. All we're asking for is support. We're asking for you to have patience. I know the chief recently talked about patience. It's really important to understand that there's information sometimes we cannot release, but it's for good reason. But please understand the challenging job that we have. And please, at the end of the day, keep us in your prayers. That said, I want to thank you all tonight for your time and your attention. It's very valuable. This is great information tonight. And with that, I will introduce our...
There's one thing we forgot to tell. While we were going through this work, the Racine Police Department, the Racine County Sheriff's Department, we were very purposeful, very direct in who we arrested. We protected your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment right, your right to gather freely. We went after people that needed to be arrested. We weren't clearing corners. We were very surgical with our information and with our efforts.
Absolutely, and to just touch on that, you've seen the police chief with his diagram a couple of slides ago showing where the shots were being occurred. We just don't randomly go out and stop people. We're going where the calls are at. That is what we target, is where the calls are at. We go where the shots are being fired in this particular case. But that said, it is now my pleasure to introduce our Racine County District Attorney, Patricia Hansen. Trish.
So as part of the report card process and part of the feedback that I got from the community, we knew that people needed to better understand what the crime picture was in Racine County. And so as of today, live on the District Attorney's website, there's now a live dashboard for crimes that are received at my office. As of now, you can look up gun-related crimes, but we're going to continue to build that out every month and collect more data and make that available to you. So we'll start with gun crimes, but we can move to drug crimes. You can choose the drug of choice, who is being arrested, which municipality they're from, what age group they're from, what their ethnicity is. We'll move to domestic violence, things like child abuse, child sex assault. You're going to be able to pick which kind of crime and what area of crime you want to know something about and move across that dashboard to pull data for yourself as to the questions or the interests that you have. But tonight I want to talk specifically about gun crimes in Racine County that made it to the point of prosecution. So the first slide that we have for you is just to show you really what happened with gun-related crimes between 2018 and 2021. We're up 71% in my office in gun-related crimes. And of course, this gives me great pause when I look at the cases that we've been prosecuting and the dangerousness of those cases. If these cases continue to increase this year at this rate, we'll increase another 7% in 2022. If they continue to increase at this pace, as they have in previous years, we will have more than 400 gun-related cases in a single year. This is terrifying for our community and why we're all here together working in a new way as we've never done before to try to make a change. Gun-related arrests and types are a way to help us understand the uptick in violent crime. As you can see, felony bail jumping that involves a weapon, first-degree recklessly endangering safety that involves a weapon. Typically, that's something that involves a discharge of a weapon or a pointing of a weapon. Carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. Those are all significantly higher than last year in 2022. In fact, carrying a concealed weapon without a permit, as you can see, nearly doubled in 2022 compared to the same time last year. So echoing the tremendous work of this Violent Crimes Task Force, reducing that flow of illegal weapons, especially among the violent offenders, those who are felons and should not possess weapons at all, is a key to how we are going to eliminate those gun crimes. Those are the beginning stages. As the sheriff said, we can't arrest our way out of this, but we have to use the data to try to target our efforts and our resources to determine how we stop it for the future. So who is at risk of gun crimes? Now that we can figure out how many gun crimes there are and what types there are, who are the people that are carrying guns? So over the next few slides, I'm going to talk about age, racial and ethnic background, and who the defendants are that are possessing the weapons. As a reference point, this slide highlights the current racial and ethnic breakdown of the city of Racine, because that's where we're going to focus our numbers on today. This is not the county breakdown, and I want to make that distinction because there are higher numbers in the city where we're combating our efforts right now, or combating these crimes, and I wanted to make sure we weren't comparing apples to oranges. Hopefully this will help us to understand the particular groups that are over or underrepresented with respect to gun crimes, and thus who needs additional services or resources to ensure that their neighborhoods are safe and violence-free. So this next slide breaks down the defendants of violent gun crime from 2018 until September of 2022 by age and ethnicity. I will tell you that when we started this process, we really thought that our 14 to 19 group was going to be, or I'm sorry, the 12 to 17 group was going to be the largest group of our offenders. And we're surprised to learn that it was actually 18 to 29 when you culled the data, and significantly 18 to 29-year-olds. So almost half of our defendants were between the ages of 18 and 29. I think that we get more attention and there's more media focus when the offenders are younger, but the reality is it's kids that have left school that we're arresting and that are being charged with the offenses in my office. We also found that 889 versus 253 of offenders, and even fewer who were Hispanic or Latino, and 6 other compared to the African American of defendants, was a significant difference in numbers and in the data. As individuals age, it's clear that they appear less likely to commit a violent gun crime, and it appears as though roughly more of our gun crime defendants are African American. That means we understood from the data that we need to focus our attention on young defendants and young pre-defendants who are African American, and our community engagement and programming needs to focus on them, those young people who appear to be more vulnerable to gun crime. Now, this demographic information is not meant to be accusatory or to demonize one group over another, but how we use our resources, how we allocate funding, how we better prepare the folks, those young people coming into the next generation, to make sure that they're not a part of these statistics when we report out next year or the year after or 5 years from now. So now I'd like to just show you briefly what that dashboard looks like. As you can see, the buttons that are on the dashboard, you can click on 1 year, 5 years, 2 years. You can collect by municipality. You can choose by gun-related charges, the type, the description, by statute. You'll be able to cull all of this data for yourself. And as I indicated, with the help of Travis Richardson, who, much like Chelsea Barker, is the heart and soul of our data and analytics at Racine County, I would have never been able to provide this to you by myself. And Travis is going to continue to work on this with me. So for this dashboard, it's at racinecounty.com. Look under departments, you'll find district attorney, and you'll be able to find this information. And ultimately, we'll be linking it to our other partners as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. As you can see, we have one of our very famous community connectors here, Mr. Farr, who is in the room. He's behind you at the tables you see. We have with us tonight some of our invested community partners. I encourage you, after we're done tonight, please stop by and talk to them. They are your active resources, boots on the ground, who we are going to be counting on to help us in this initiative. So the City of Racine and Racine County are investing in these new and innovative strategies to better engage and serve residents around gun violence. As we heard earlier, Safe and Sound is a program that is used in Milwaukee. You should know that the City of Racine has already partnered with Safe and Sound Milwaukee and invested dollars in bringing Safe and Sound to Racine. Why will our Safe and Sound be different? The city is going to hire people from the city of Racine. We want our people invested in our community, not Milwaukee folks who don't know our city, our neighborhoods, our community. They're going to be embedded in our COP houses. They're going to be there to hit the high crime neighborhoods and do our community engagement, because no one on this stage today can tell you how to take back your neighborhoods. No one on this stage today can tell you what your kids need to be successful. And no one on this stage today can tell you what you need to feel safe. So it's important that the community engages with us to tell us what they need, to tell us what we can do to help. And someday, we're hoping those bridges build the trust that we need. When people see something, they say something. Because we have cold cases in Racine right now for 16-year-old kids who get shot on the street, for 14-year-old kids who get killed in cars. And that just doesn't stand with me. And it's because no one wants to talk. And we have to change that mentality. And I know that I can't go to the neighborhoods and ask people to talk to me. So we need to engage our communities and build those trust, build that bridge. And we're going to do that through Safe and Sound and through community-oriented policing. We also have engaged our credible messengers. Credible messengers have been around with Racine County for years. If you don't know our credible messengers, get to know our credible messengers. Some of them are here with us tonight. They're going to work with kids who have already made it to the juvenile justice system. And why are they credible? Some of them are re-entrants. Some of them have been down this path before. And they bring the message to young people who are heading down the wrong path and try to mentor them into the right direction. They've been a collaboration between the county and the George Bray Center and the YMCA. And they come out to work with these kids and their families to make sure that everybody surrounds them with the support that they need to make good choices. They attend court hearings, they provide crisis assistance, they mediate between the parents and children, they try to help kids avoid law enforcement contacts. They help children who are in these at-risk situations complete interactive journaling. They use evidence-based programming to assess a youth's readiness for change and to bring to them, positive strategies to process and act on to maintain social behavior that's positive for them. And then they serve as positive role models to help them avoid adult corrections once they leave the juvenile justice system. And what we realize is that credible messengers were doing a lot of the same work as the Racine Unified School District Community Connectors, who are also credible messengers. And if you ask anybody on the team, I haven't gotten the names right all summer, because as far as I'm concerned, they're interchangeable. But we've brought everybody together now in the same room at the same time, not to tell the law enforcement officers what the kids are doing, not to tattle. We don't want that relationship. This is not about snitching. This is about supporting these kids across all of these divides. The connectors are a bridge between youth and the services they need in their schools, in the city, and in the county. You would be shocked to know the resources that are out there that are never accessed. We're trying to end that. So between the unified schools, the community connectors work directly with the students while they're in the buildings, trying to anticipate and resolve issues inside the buildings before they happen, identifying at-risk kids, and being a mentor to them in their school buildings. Working with the school resource officers to develop relationships to avoid problems spilling out into the streets, and to help make a safer community inside the school walls. Community connectors also make sure that gang-related activities stay out of the buildings. We're going to improve that even further with the sharing of intelligence and information between law enforcement, community connectors, and credible messengers. So that if something is heating up on the streets, we know about it in the buildings. The county's also added a new component to the victim witness services that we provide out of my office. We've partnered with Voices of Black Mothers United. Nikita Hamer brought this program to Wisconsin and is the state lead. The county hired her on to make sure that we are providing that voice for the families who've been victims of violence. Championed by Nikita, she brings to us the shared experiences of other families and helps victims to heal and strengthen the communities around them when they've been affected by gun violence. Nikita is now here to help us to understand, to work with community leaders and law enforcement, to identify neighborhood risk factors that contribute to violence, and to help us build the bridges to trust to make sure that families work with us to end the cycle of violence. These services are represented here today at our informational booth, and like I said earlier, please stop by and ask them about what they do. They are all committed to reducing violence in our community. We are here to interrupt the cycle of violence. I can tell you that a week and a half ago, when there was a shooting near Case High School, we did not deploy in the way that I'm going to tell you about in a moment, but these partnerships worked. As soon as I became aware that something had happened, I was in communication with school resource officers, with community connectors, with the school district, and within 18 hours, we had a suspect in custody and not on the streets of Racine. Kids knew that they were safe to come back to school the next day because we had a location for that offender. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that this is going to work, that this did work for us once already. The way we bring these partnerships together is by all of us coming together and engaging the services and making sure that we have all of these partners directing folks who need our help to the right resources. Acutely, we had to direct the task force out this summer to stop the gun violence as quickly as we could. The other important program that came to be this summer was the Violence Interruption Crisis Management Unit. Many of the members of the Crisis Management Unit are here tonight. So what this will look like is that on the night of a critical incident or a homicide, the incident commander from the agency will notify me as they're required to do by law. But I will then notify the Crisis Management Unit that an incident has occurred. And that will set in motion the deployment of several people. The first will be the Crisis Management Unit itself, which is made up of Maurice Horton, who works for Racine County, the Victim Witness Unit, Voices of Black Mothers United, and several chosen violence interrupters. The goal of this unit is threefold, really. To get everybody on the same page with as much information as we can provide without affecting the investigation. To send someone out to the scene who can immediately connect with family of the victim, to provide them the support, the information that they so desperately crave at that critical hour, and to be with them in their most critical hour of need. At the hospital, at the scene, at the agency, at home, wherever that may be. So the violence interrupters will be deployed as soon as they can be at the scene to de-escalate the situation for the family. I've learned through this process from speaking to mothers that many times these young, impulsive, many times gang members will come to the family looking for permission to seek retribution. If we can get that stopped at the beginning point, we can hopefully stop that circle of violence. Our other violence interrupters will also respond to the scene, and we're going to draw on our pool of community connectors and our credible messengers to arrive and work with the crowd. They've learned de-escalation skills, trauma-informed responses, how to work with the people who are there and bring them back down and keep people on the scene without responding with a violent response, without taking to social media and calling for revenge. We're going to do all of this within hours of a critical incident. That could be at the hospital. Again, getting truthful and accurate information out rather than things people make up on social media that might escalate a situation. Again, the follow-up from that will be our street outreach, which will be community-oriented policing, our Safe and Sound, who are going to follow up in the neighborhood to see what we can do to get accurate information out and provide services to those who might need it, who have been negatively impacted by the trauma from an event. We want to be there, boots on the ground, as quickly as we can after an incident occurs. And then following these events, our Voices of Black Mothers United and our victim witness services will be provided to the families as the accountability partners to continue to provide those services, whether or not a suspect is in custody. People need to continue to have that support from us, whether or not we can give them the answers they're looking for about who committed the crime. We've fallen down on those aspects before, but that's not going to happen again. The violence interrupters will be on scene. They've all been given identification. They'll be wearing a vest. They will not be reporting to law enforcement because that's not what this team is about. They will be on scene to provide support and services to the people who need it most and to de-escalate the situation in a peaceful way that hopefully brings resolution that night and allows for people to have time to heal. So these are the things that the Violence Crime Reduction Initiative has done on the front end, but understand that we appreciate, as we used to say in the 90s, this is a weed and seed effect. We want to weed the problems, but seed the soil. Because we know that there has to be something that fills in behind. And that's what the efforts of this initiative are set to do. To provide the services we need to make more accountable, more successful, and more prosperous young adults. Thank you all for being here tonight. We want to get this message out, and it's important that you're here. I'd now like to reintroduce to you Dr. Eric Gallion and the other executives for the closing message.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, District Attorney Hanson. There's a lot of information that we got, a lot of valuable information that we got. I just want to appreciate so much what our partners have done, and I really look forward to engaging the community as we move forward. I do want to put just a human aspect to this before we close. I mean, really important data we've shared with you, really important programs we want to engage with the community, as the county executive said, with the community. But all of you should know that when any of us on the stage get news of gun violence, we feel it. We hear the community's concern. We are doing everything we can, taking all hands on deck approach to addressing it. We don't claim we have all the answers. We don't claim that this has solved everything, but we think it's an important first step, and we want you to know about it. So for our community leaders and elected officials, please continue engaging residents in high crime communities. First-hand feedback on issues and needs can help design and implement high-impact services critical to the mission of our Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. Dr. Gallion?
And to help connect residents to services, nothing beats direct connection and conversations with the hardworking staff and keeping our community engaged. As the district attorney said, it's going to take all of us to keep this moving forward. It's going to require you to be the bridge between the different services.
So moving forward, we have many great community organizations behind you working hard to prevent and reduce gun crime. Whether anonymously reporting a crime through Crime Stoppers or providing a paid work experience through our summer youth jobs. Together, we can understand and share everything available with residents in high crime neighborhoods. I encourage everyone to pick up a postcard with community resources and key contacts before you leave here tonight. Help spread the word about available resources. And of course, we want to hear from you. We will be sticking around after the presentation to answer questions one-on-one and listen to your concerns so we can provide adequate attention and have a real dialogue. And simultaneously, please visit our community resource booths. There are a lot of great people and organizations to help work through these issues. The conversation doesn't end tonight. Please feel free to reach out to myself or anybody on the stage directly, as the sheriff stated. We're done messing around with this issue. This multi-pronged, unparalleled collaboration is going to work. We are not declaring victory. In fact, if this is a football game, we're at the stage where the national anthem would be singing. But we are all in this together. We need to lift each other up, not tear each other down. Together, we will achieve this mission to reverse gun violence, build a safe community, and as I stated on May 26th, and I'm going to state it right now, everybody in Racine County and the city of Racine has an inherent right to live in a safe neighborhood. Thank you very much.